Welcome to Dilli Dali, Dr. Percy Fernandez.
Thank you. Thank you, GK. Thank you for having me on this program.
I'm so happy to have you in this show, and I have been waiting for this opportunity since long after seeing your amazing photographs from South Africa and now from Kamchatka in Russia. Before getting into your passion with nature photography and all, let me, for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, let me introduce you. Um, First of all, Dr. Percy Fernandez is a close friend of mine, and he had his PhD from Delhi's Jawaharlal Nehru University in cinema and popular culture, and he had his post graduation from Delhi School of Economics in sociology, and at the moment he is the chairperson, professor and chairperson at the School of Media and Communication of the Manipal University's Dubai campus. He brings experiences from different walks of life, from print media, from film. He did documentaries for the BBC and other channels. Then he is into social media and he's into the world of beautiful photography and it's, you know, many things. I have to tell he's a mountaineer. He had been to Everest Base Camp. He had many things to say, but at the moment, today he is here to talk about his recent trip to Kamchatka in Russia and a little more about his passion in photography. Welcome to Dilli Dali, Percy.
Thank you. Thank you, GK. Thank you for that long introduction and kind.
And my first question, why wildlife when very beautiful people are around you?
I, well, of course, I'm not saying that I don't take pictures of beautiful people around us or the not so beautiful people.
Hmm.
In fact, wherever I go, I try and also take pictures, whether in Varanasi, whether in Manipur, or for that matter, in Masai Mara in Kenya, or for that matter, in Serbia, or in Bulgaria, or for that matter, even in Kamchatka. um, yes, I don't sort of, as a photographer, I don't really, I don't discriminate, and I don't, I only try and capture and bring back home images and beautiful memories. But of late, I should say that I have been traveling to reserves, national parks, and wilderness in general to capture um, those beautiful landscapes and also wildlife in its pristine, in its idyllic and natural beauty.
And how do you want to be called as a nature photographer or wildlife photographer?
Just a photographer. I think it'd be unfair to, in fact, to basically um, slot or pigeonhole photographers unless they really want to be called themselves as, let's say, a fashion photographer or a portrait photographer. The techniques are the same. The craft is the same. It is their interest, actually, I think, that really differentiates between several genres in photography.
Okay, so before getting into your Kamchatka experience, I have a preliminary question to you. Are you a self-taught photographer or are you trained by someone else?
I began by learning by doing. In fact, I had I remember I was gifted a camera by my father's friend back in the day, where we shot in film. So I began by teaching myself and learning myself. In fact, um, uh, it was all self-taught, self-learning. And later, in fact, the last, in fact, decade or so, I have sort of enrolled myself in courses so that I wanted to sort of learn photography formally from the masters and also from those who basically teaching. And eventually, I mean, and incidentally, we at Manipal also sort of, in fact, teach photography
Hmm.
in collaboration with Nikon here. So it's been a long journey, learning every day. So every trip I come back, there is a new learning in terms of the craft, in terms of the way I look at the space, the way I look at the frame. So it's a lifelong experience, both formal and of course informal on the ground, inside the classroom and outside of it.
And there can be different, there are different kinds of travelers. Some people are solo travelers, some people travel in team, some people travel in very small team, one or two friends and all. And but when it comes to photography, that too into wilderness and that too into forests and all. How is it from your side? Are you a solo traveler, or you travel in a team?
If I travel in a team, there are very few people, and particularly, let's say, for example, I'm in a safari in Masai Mara. There are only two people in a jeep. Unlike, let's say, even a team of photographers who go to actually shoot wildlife, there are four in a jeep or maybe six in a jeep. So it is not very conducive, and you need to have a lot of space, and you need to really go low. You need to lie down. So one, space, and two, you really don't want to uh, be crowded with many photographers. So mostly I go with very small teams, and maybe a team of four, maybe a team of six. I think the maximum is that I've traveled with a team of six, unless and until I'm trekking. Even if I'm trekking, in fact, in the Himalaya, it has been with very small groups, with friends who I really know, who respect our spaces, and also respect the spaces where we go to. And the recent trip, Kamchatka, I was on my own. Well, of course, I joined a group of Russian photographers,
Okay.
five
Now,
of them.
now we are getting into the Kamchatka experience. Uh, what makes this particular space different from other areas?
I think for me, the journey is very, very important. Preparing for the journey, I think, is very important. I've always felt that. So that was very sacred to me, and it is what is called in sociology. It's like a rites of passage. So for me, I think that is very, very important for me. So I was really looking forward to the journey, because it's very, very far. It is almost on the edge of, I would say, planet Earth, subarctic, farthest from Russia, very close to. If I told you that it's very closer to the United States, they would really wonder. They would just go look at the map. So for me, I think it was very, very special. And each moment, I think I thoroughly enjoyed. I was curious as a kid, and I was looking forward for every moment through my travel, and all the way that I landed, and my journey back. So it was very special to me, because it was really far, and it is wilderness at its best.
And can you just give little more details about the geographical location of this place?
Yeah. So Kamchatka basically is a peninsula, and it basically jabs into. If you look at the map, it is somewhere south. In fact, far south. In fact, east. As you know, Russia has about 11 time zones. Kamchatka being the easternmost time zone, number one, and of course, St. Petersburg is the 11th time zone. So I had to travel about 10 time zones from Moscow all the way to
Mm.
Kamchatka. It's a peninsula. It is flanked on the eastern side by the Pacific Ocean, and it is flanked on its western side by the Sea of Okhotsk. Its climate is moody, and that is because of the Sea of Okhotsk is really frigid, cold, gray, uh, dark. Even when I was there, in fact, last month, and much of its climate is basically is influenced by the Sea of Okhotsk. Um, and it is really, really huge. It is really big. It is 27,000 square kilometers. To give you put things in perspective, it's
Oh,
it's bigger than UK and the
Yeah.
Netherlands put together,
Huge.
and much of it is not really explored. In fact, it was closed to visitors till 1990. It was only allowed for even for the Russians in 1985. So it was like an exotic outback, even for Russians. Not even many Russians have gone. I don't have the statistic, but most of the Russians have not gone to Kamchatka.
I never knew that it was so vast and huge. I never knew that it is, so vast. And
Yes, I've
uh,
been to the Himalaya. The Himalaya is breathtaking, is vast. Some of the valleys are really wide, but I've never seen valleys so wide as in Kamchatka. When we
okay.
entering the Kronotsky Reserve, which basically is the gateway to the Kuril Lake, where the brown bears are seen. It is so vast. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, nothing would capture. You have to be really there and look at. It is untouched. It is absolutely beautiful, and it is unbelievably beautiful, and it's complete wilderness.
Whenever I got opportunity to go to the Himalayan valleys and all, I always get fascinated by the potentials of human eye to see the vastness. But you depend on the lens of a camera.
No, I do very consciously make an effort not to see through the lens of the camera, because I think my decision to see through the viewfinder is always made through the eye, my mind's eye, I should say that. Because it is the lens can never appreciate. I remember what, let's say, Sir Vidya
Hmm.
Nepal writes the different shades of green, for
Hmm.
example. I mean, not many of us, if you go basically look through your window into your garden, um, if you're not very conscious, you will never basically identify the different shades of green.
Absolutely.
So particularly in forest and something like in Kamchatka, I could have counted the number of the shades of green that was available, and which is hardly visible in your through your viewfinder. Over the period of time, I consciously, unless and until some real action is happening, but I consciously uh, plan my images in my mind's eye, and then I try and shoot. And what is being captured is just a sliver or a slice of whatever that
What
exists
you
there. So
experience. And during the Soviet Union time, whenever we discuss about world politics, uh, even in political polemics, these brown bears of Russia used to appear, and you have seen them now very closely. Uh, Please tell about that the first fascinating sight of a huge brown bear of Kamchatka.
yeah, it is. So typically, uh, as a photographer, when I'm preparing for my trip, I look at images. I plan my images. I plan for my trip, but you're entirely not really um, sort of prepared till the time you arrive and you look at the first bear, and it's always for me. I think it's always a great. I think it's a great spectacle. It's a great wonder, I would say, more than a spectacle. And I really wonder. I mean, I really um, over the period over time, I don't go for my camera basically. I look at and really marvel at the place, and so I remember we drove from Petropavlovsky, which is the capital of Kamchatka. We were staying in a hotel called Paratunka, which is like 30 kilometers away.
Is it a
Very,
small
very
town?
city.
Is it a small
It
town?
is a very, it's a very, very small town.
Hmm.
Petropavlovsky is a mini city, I would say, where one of the Russian submarine stations is located. And we were not staying in the city. We basically drove to a place called Paratunka, and overlooking these volcanoes called Vilchinsky.
Hmm.
I should also say to you and to whosoever our viewers and our listeners that Kamchatka is also a land of volcanoes. It's a UN declared heritage site. It has got more than 160 active
Okay.
volcanoes. So we drove all the way to a village called Pozhetka, which is basically the gateway to the Kronotsky Reserve, the Kuril Lake, the sacred and this beautiful lake where the brown bears feast on the salmon from during the springtime all the way till about September or all the way till October, till the first snows. So we were going in a boat, the rangers picked us up, and the only way you can actually reach there is by boat or by a helicopter. Most of the tourists basically go there for short periods, for an hour or so to the lake and then fly out. But since we were there going to do some serious photography, we were staying for 4 days. So we took the boat. So on the river, um, uh, and we were going into the Kuril Lake, into the Kuril Lake camp. So that was fascinating. That was absolutely fabulous. The rangers took us by a boat. All our gear was there, and all our ration and all our good equipment were there on the boat. And that's the time we saw bears on the lake, on the rocks, resting. It was close to noon. It was beautiful light. It was a beautiful day, beautiful morning. Seagulls making a lot of ruckus, and the first sight of the bears. It was just marvelous. Um, it was as though that you were there at the beginning of the universe, or the birth of the world, in fact.
Now, please tell me something about this species. How it differs from the other bears of the world.
They are, in fact, I really looked up and I asked our guides and rangers. They're the largest brown bears, and each one of them have their scientific name. And this is Wursa is bear, as in Latin, as you know. Wursa Kamchatka Beringus, and interestingly, Beringus is attached to the Kamchatka bears because the Kamchatka Peninsula was basically founded by a Danish explorer called Vitus Bering
Okay.
way back in 1719.
Hmm.
I think so, if my memory serves right. So it has got the Beringer's basically surname attached to the scientific name.
Okay.
Its skull is much bigger than any of the bears, the
Okay.
Kodiak bears or the Alaskan bears, or the polar bears have a smaller, basically, skull. But this one has got an enormous skull, and it can weigh up to about 800 to 900 kilos, putting on weight during the summertime when they feed on the salmon. And Yes, they're the largest. Very clearly, they're the largest brown
And it's
bears.
it is totally brown because of the bears of
It is.
our.
It is brown bear. In India, we have the Himalayan brown bears in the Lahore Spiti area. In fact, in the areas of Kargil, in fact, I do see images almost on a daily basis.
Hmm.
In the Himalayan region, Himalayan brown bears, they resemble very closely.
Oh,
It is brown. In fact, the cubs are blackish brown.
okay.
But a full-grown adult male or female, it is brown bear. In fact, it is brown in
And what is
color.
the total population?
The
Expected
population,
population?
there has been no official census, but I believe an official census was taken about 10 years ago. But our rangers told us that they have a population between 10 to 15,000,
Hmm.
which is the largest density of brown bears you can see ever in any place. So Kamchatka certainly has got the largest density of brown bears, and particularly concentrated in around the Kuril Lake during this time.
Okay. But it is a peninsula. It is not an island. No, only island.
The peninsula, it is basically surrounded by three sides on sea,
Three sides.
and of course landlocked on one side.
Okay. Now coming to the habits of these brown bears across the year. Across the year, what they eat. They eat salmons only during this period.
There is something called an active phase of this brown bear. So that's the cyclody, and then there is basically the quiet phase or the hibernation phase. So the active phase begins from spring, which is basically from April, early June, So what happens is that bears leave their dens in search of food and mate, in fact, primarily for food, in fact, and those with cubs, the males go out in search of food first, and the mothers, in fact, basically go later. So during this time, there are no salmons, mind you. So they're basically their food is basically seaweed, pine nuts, animal carcasses, small, basically rodents, birds, eggs, and ant larvae. I see here. So the main breeding time is in June, in fact.
Mm.
So summertime is June to August. Is primary plants, um, uh, and meadowsweet, and sort of even poisonous plants as well. The autumn period is where the bears start actually putting on weight. They put on their fat for winter, and as you know that Kamchatka is particularly the Kuril Lake and areas around is the largest spawning ground for the Pacific salmon, the sockeye salmon, the pink salmon, chum, kohu, and other type of fish, and they feed, and they go into the hibernation early November till late April. Um, so the first females with cubs go, are in fact, uh, they basically go into hibernation, then the pregnant females, in fact.
In
So
fact,
you're,
they are during the hibernation. Uh, the women are pregnant.
yes, it is during January, and it is during January. I think they are basically um, they basically give birth to the litter, and in fact, the young ones really cannot sort of walk. So it is during around from January to February. So usually there are about 2 or 3 cubs in a litter, or sometimes it could be uh, 3 or 4 or more. Um, they're born blind. I didn't know this. So and they can't walk for a while. So they're born blind, and it takes about a month or two for them to sort of really move around. So this all happens, I think, during this hibernation, and I think it makes only sense and natural and ecological sense, natural sense for them to be born during this hibernation phase during
Percy,
the
I have
peak winter.
seen some of the beautiful photographs which you have already posted on social media, some of the videos also. And coming to that, I hope we will be able to show some of the videos and photographs to the viewers now. But please, I have seen a mother with 3 cubs. Can you just tell about that?
Yeah, so we were very lucky as we were getting into the reserve. The one of the inspectors, there are inspectors who below the rangers who accompany with you, who accompany you during your shoot. So this girl was telling us that you guys are really lucky. There are 3 mothers with 3 cubs. So I think it was real a lottery for us. So we shot all of them. We were shooting. The 3 mothers were around the Kuril Lake camp. So it was a fantastic experience. The the cubs would be on the shores. In fact, uh, uh, once in a while they would bring the cubs into the lake, and but the cubs would generally feed on. At least the days we stayed there, I didn't see them feeding the salmon. Otherwise, the cubs would be basically feeding on the leaves and the shrubs and the shoots of the trees, but hanging around with mama, and also would basically see them hunt the salmon. So it is training period. It's training time, and once in a while they would just get into the lake with the mother bear, and then they get back just on the shallows.
And their behavioral patterns, whether they are aggressive.
Uh, they were certainly not even by a whiff, I would say. Uh, they're not aggressive, and I think it is only the human intervention and any wildlife. I think that is the case. I think if you really disturb them in their habitat, and if you're making a noise or disturbing them, I think they get irritated. And also, I think right now, because the food is really found in abundance,
Mm.
so you get about millions of sockeye basically spawning, and that's perfect food for the bears. So I didn't even notice even an iota of irritation from these bears. We were almost close with one of the mother bears with three cubs. I was just uh, I was about 3 feet away.
Oof.
Yeah, it was like a meter. It was very close, and
Mm.
in fact, I mean, the inspector thought it was safe, uh, and I was absolutely quiet, and I was not even breathing, and I was on the floor, and in fact, we
And
were
you
on
were
the
in the
bridge.
boat? You were in the boat?
No, I know I was on a bridge. We were all on a bridge, and
Yeah.
there was a grill on the bridge, and it was on the other side of the grill, and the big mother bear was lying on the bridge, and the three cubs were playing around her. So mother and cubs, and we were just few feet away, uh, and we didn't feel anything. I mean, there was. It was really beautiful. It was a beautiful feeling to
No,
be very close
I know
to
these
bears.
bears are. I know these bears are great swimmers, but how they hunt, how they fish?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, some of the experienced bears, particularly the mothers and the males, the big adults, they get to the water, they can get the salmon for the first time, or I think it's just by experience. But more of the younger ones, I think they get it not in the first time or the
Mm.
second, maybe just get it the third attempt. So they go down and Kuru Lake, where we were there, one of the camps. It's in the shallows, so it's not very deep,
Mm.
and the salmons you can really see. So
Mm.
they go to, so the and suddenly there's a surge of salmons, going in a school and then coming back like an oxbow. So they go down, and I believe, and I asked the rangers, and there were a couple of scientists, there were professors who were studying bears, and just with their paw, the front paws, they give they deliver the first blow,
Mm.
uh, and then they pick it up in their mouth. But some experienced bears can actually fish directly from their. They can grab the fish from their mouth.
Mm.
Um, that Those bears are really experienced, but generally, it's just by delivering a severe blow with their paw, and they are huge, and their claws are really can pierce into a tin sheet. In fact, the claws are so huge and so strong.
Mm.
They can tear apart anything. They can tear apart a tree. In fact, we were um, in a watchtower. The watchtower was covered by tin sheets, and I could see holes in that tin sheet. And I asked one of the rangers, and Ilyanska, she said these were times when they have come and basically attacked the tin sheet where
Okay.
visitors were there. In fact, so yeah, it can tear apart anything.
And what happens when two males fight each other?
Yeah, it is all the salmon, or maybe we haven't seen. I mean, during mating season, they have to prevail upon other sort of males. But even two females. In fact, one of the videos that I posted on Instagram, you've seen, it's actually a female, not a male, trying to intimidate the cubs.
Okay.
So the mother bear runs towards her, and there's a big standoff. And even during fishing, there are bears. In fact, there were several of them, so you don't know which way to look at. Each of them is fishing on different sort of locations in the lake, and there's always a fight. Not always. I mean, I'd say most of the time, if one bear is actually caught a salmon, there's another bear which is close. In fact, I haven't posted some of the pictures. There was a massive, nasty brawl that actually happened between two bears over a salmon. Um, So yeah, the bigger one and the male always tries to sort of prevail and sort of impress upon the younger ones.
Okay. Now, if I ask you in Kamchatka, the most unforgettable moment for you, it can be on the brightest side, or it can be on the other side. Something which you may have.
Yeah, I think there are two things happened. I mean, there's a tragedy that struck in the lake when we were there. There was a film crew there was an English crew that was filming for a Sky uh, channel or Sky TV program. That's what they said, and us, six of us. So we were at the camp and nobody else, because then you have a stream of visitors coming every day by the helicopters from the nearby resorts for an hour or so to watch, to look at the bears, photograph them. They're all tourists. So it was on the 12th or the 11th, if I'm not sure. I'm not sure. 11th, I think, of August, and it was pretty foggy in the morning. I couldn't see my nose. It was that foggy, and we were on the bridge that I was talking about, where we were shooting the bears, and suddenly the fog started to slowly lift. I mean, we could see about maybe 10 meters or something, but I would imagine that the fog on the lake would have been really, I mean, the visibility would have been 0 degrees. I heard a huge deafening sound, and we were told about a few minutes later there was a helicopter that were carrying tourists um, uh, that crashed into the lake. Unfortunately, about 16 of them, 8 of them died and 8 of them survived. So the response was very quick from particularly the rangers. They actually left by the boat to the site of the crash. In fact, unfortunately, it happened to be almost in the deepest section of the lake. The lake itself is about 100 meters deep, which is about 450 feet. So we were not very far from the lake. It was very tragic, and we had to really evacuate our camp and that day, and really hurry and just gather our equipment and go to a nearby camp. So it was a very grim day. It was very particularly you know and thankfully they were able to actually salvage 8 of them. Yes, so that's something which is very tragic. And back home, I think my parents were worried, and even my friends. I thought, who on earth would perhaps, in fact, let's say, report a story that's happening in Kamchatka. In fact, it was picked up by the BBC and other channels. So there's a bit of concern and sort of panic back home in India, and of course amongst my friends and colleagues here. But they were happy to see that I was not one of the passengers uh, in the uh, in the helicopter.
Mm.
But yeah, that was just an incident. But I think we really we had to. Thankfully, none of our itinerary had to be sort of reworked. So we continued with our itinerary and still continue to shoot. In fact, the next 2 days from a different camp. But I think the camp itself, I think, was memorable. I mean, the bears, of course, swimming in the lakes, fishing, seeing them fishing at places. We were walking alongside the bears, so that was, I think,
How how
fabulous. I mean,
long how long is day? How long is the day there?
the days are long, particularly sunrise is about 6:30, and sunset is about 8:30 at night. So you have long days.
Oh, long days.
Uh, yes. And also one of the most memorable moments for me was going over the volcano, the Butnovsky volcanoes. So it's an active volcano. Like as I said, there are about 160 volcanoes and active volcanoes in Kamchatka Peninsula, and this had fumaroles all over.
Mm.
Uh, in fact, fumaroles are basically gases, sulfur gases
Yes,
erupting
yes.
at great speed, something similar to the sound of a steam engine, and fumaroles going up in the sky in plumes. And the surface was absolutely lunar-like. It was like as though you're standing on Moon or in Mars.
Mm.
So that was a great feeling, and it's such a natural wonder. I mean, you felt as though you were basically standing there at the dawn of civilization, or dawn of, in fact, the world, in fact, or the universe.
Absolutely.
So that was a great experience.
Now coming to your passion for the photography and all, I just wanted to know what sort of camera lenses all you are using.
I generally been shooting with, I mean, just as a brand, Nikon, but I just want to tell all the viewers and friends and anybody who's interested in photography. I think the brands don't matter. I mean, it's just that I happen to use Nikon, and of course we have great support from here, because we also run a program on photography with Nikon here. I carry. This time I carried about 4 bodies. In fact, I carried 2 DSLR bodies, and I carried 2 mirrorless bodies, and I carried about 5 lenses. I had a 500 mm lens. I had a 7200. I had a 1424. I had a 2470, and I also had a fisheye lens, which was about 8 to 15. I think there was too much of gear that I carried, and then every time I come back, I reflect on it, and I tell myself, did I carry more? Did I carry less? But yes, I think less is always more. But yes, because I didn't really want to miss on any opportunities, and I wanted the entire breadth and the range of lenses. So I carried mirrorless bodies, mirrorless lenses, and I also carried my DSLR bodies as well.
Now, I read recently. I read few articles on debates over the mirrorless camera and photography. How do
Yeah,
you?
mirrorless cameras. I think there's a lot of marketing gimmick that's happening. That's because technology. They would want you to buy mirrorless cameras. And what if you have a DSLR camera? I mean, what do you do with that? Well, of course, which means you have to buy a mirrorless camera, which means you have to buy a mirrorless lens. And of course, there is an adapter that you can actually use the normal DSLR lens, for example, in Nikon. But it doesn't really quite match up to the images that you really would want to actually get. So which means you have to buy a Z glass, which means a Z lens. So it's a lot of investment. But there are advantages, particularly in it's silent, and it's lighter. The autofocusing is superb, and particularly you can move your sort of the autofocus points on your viewfinder all across from corner to corner. But in a DSLR cameras you can't. And there are many, in fact. But yes, the images that I see, in fact, I haven't looked at all the images from my Kamchatka trip, but some of the images that I shot on the pictures are excellent. The pictures are really superb.
And you call it as a positive advancement?
I think, yeah, because the technology and any technology is always trying to look at advancing whatever that is the earlier. So it is. I see it is because some of the strips, because it's very light. The mirrorless cameras are light, and particularly when you're going on long trips, and when you know each and every ounce matters, particularly you're carrying your cabin baggage and your checked-in baggage. So all these matters, and so the lenses are getting lighter. You can't. Earlier, I used to, let's say, for the older 600 mm, I have to mount it on a, let's say, a tripod. Now the FL lenses, which are basically the fluoroid lenses, which is basically all the telephotos I'm able to actually shoot with my handheld, particularly action. So the lenses are getting lighter, the bodies are getting lighter, and the prices are the same. They haven't sort of reduced, particularly for
Okay.
ever since I know of camera prices.
No, the cameras, because of the digital revolution and all, the cameras have become very handy, and everyone is having a camera now. How do you differentiate between a safari traveler, photographer, and you?
You mean a tourist? I mean, you see, all of us,
Tourist,
I
tourist,
think, have cameras. I think each one of us have our own unique way of looking at
looking
things.
at things.
Some of them don't have the time. Some of them really have to tick and say, "Well, I have been there. I have been there." So But I think particularly wildlife photography is, for me, I think a good wildlife photographer or a responsible wildlife photographer is someone who spends a lot of time
Yes.
at one single place, going back again and again, trying to understand the animal behavior, trying to understand the animal sort of human interaction, um, and trying to imagine and trying to basically portray and trying to capture images in all its glory through the year, year after year. And it's also is about documenting. So it's just not that. So which is why I think it has taken me to travel to Mara in the last 4 years. So every year, I think I make about 3 to 4 trips. uh, I guess this reason perhaps is the biggest lure to go back and really document and study even one particular family or one particular let us say a group of cheetahs or a coalition of cheetahs or about a particular leopard. We keep in touch with our guides who are in Mara, and we keep asking about each one of the leopards or cheetahs, of that matter, elephants. So I guess the serious wildlife photographer goes back again and again to whether it's Kuru Lake, of that matter, to Mara, of that matter, to let's say Kabini or Ranthambore, and trying to document the lifespan of a particular tiger or a leopard, and so on and so forth. Having said all that, it is very expensive, as you know. I mean, to travel and to be there, and of course, not all of us have the luxury to own big lenses. They're very, very expensive. So yes, so you need to find I mean, a balance and yes.
Hmm. This I always notice that it is the sense of patience which a wildlife photographer has, and the sense I always leave just like a philosopher's patience for thinking. Uh, I know this is a different world altogether, but I have two more questions for you. One is, now wildlife hunting is no more there the way we had in this world. But what is an element of hunting in a wildlife photographer's profession? You hunt for certain occasions, you hunt for certain moments, and it may be hurting the species.
I yeah, I mean, you hunt, I think, but I think it's for the better, I would say.
Hmm.
uh, I think it is like, if you really don't go and uh, capture those images and share it to the world, perhaps people would not really know that there was a leopard called, or there was a cheetah called Imani, or there was this called Tanabura, the five, the fast five in Masai Mara. Um, so yes, I think it is very important for photographers, but at the same time, not to intrude, be unobtrusive all the time, and not basically do any sort of gimmickry to further your own interests. In fact, I know of a a very popular and very so-called reputed photographer who went and threw a stone at a tiger to get the growl and the in Ranthambore, in fact. So such things, I think, not many, all, I mean, I'm few. This is a few instances. There's one instance, at least I know, and he was banned, and he's banned in Ranthambore. So that's a blot on any wildlife photographer. This is not a studio where you basically direct a model to do anything. So this is wildlife, and you need to respect that. You need to respect the space. You need to respect the animal, and also the respect the rules and regulations. So I think wildlife photographers, in general, I think they're doing a great service to ensure that poaching is a check to ensure that where there are very few and the resources are few and far between. Let's say, for example, in terms of census, wildlife photographers and the images can really contribute to identifying animals. I mean, there is in particularly in Kenya, it's a great example. Whether the lion conservation or the cheetah conservation or the hippo conservation or even the elephant conservation in Amboseli, wildlife photographers are very seriously working with the local conservationists to ensure identify the species and they're accounted for. Regards to your question on patients, I think like as it is not a studio shoot. I mean, where you can direct a model.
Yes.
So here you're waiting. You need to know, particularly if you really don't know the animal behavior, you will lose all your patients. There have been occasions we have gone. We basically accompanied this group of the largest coalition of cheetahs in Masai Mara called the Tanaboro Fast Five. And in fact, one has actually left the group now, we are told, and we could only see four of them in the last trip that I went in July. So we were with them for almost 2 days, waiting for a hunt to happen. So that's the kind of patience you need to have. So it's like almost a 14, 16 hour a day out. So we leave the resorts at 5:30 in the morning and we come back at about 8:30 at night, packing our breakfast and lunches and staying out there in the bush in search of that great image.
Percy, I remember your photograph of Tim, the elephant, the African elephant with the largest tusk, probably the largest elephant in in Africa. Can you say in a few sentences that experience?
Yeah, I think I was very, very happy. And along with another dear friend of mine, a former colleague, Shiv, we went to Amboseli looking for Tim. Tim was 50 years old then. The first afternoon, I mean, 1 hour into our drive, Tim was there right in front of us. And so it was like a miracle. It was like magic. Tim was there with us for about an hour or so, and we were the only ones who were shooting Tim, photographing him. So it was absolutely magical. He's one of his tusks. I think the left one almost grazed the ground, so he was huge.
Huge.
And unfortunately, Tim is not anymore. Tim survived about 3 life attempts on him. They tried to poach him. There was an attack by the poachers, but he survived all that. But he died a natural death. Yeah, Tim. I would sort of send you the picture of Tim. Yes, it was a great, memorable experience. I'm really happy that I have an image of Tim.
And my last question to you, Percy, what are you going to do with all these photographs?
Well, I just keep sharing it on social media, send it to friends, and of course, process. I'm in the process of actually getting a coffee table book on wildlife. I need to do some more trips to a few more regions, and I thought maybe so a publisher has agreed to basically publish this book. So that is a very at least is great for me. And maybe at some point in time I might do an exhibition here in Dubai and of course also in India as well.
Yeah, we are waiting to see that book published. And thank you for your quality time. And it is my wish to travel with you at least once.
Yeah, you've traveled, of course, you've traveled to, you've traveled to the Mara yourself, and so you know what it is. But yes, of course, I am looking forward to that trip, traveling with you.
Thank you, Percy, for your quality time and best wishes for all your future endeavors. And I hope we will meet soon in this great city of Delhi where you began everything.
Thank you, GK. I look forward to being in Delhi soon. In fact, the city I was born, and I spent most of my time. Yes, I
Where are
look
your
forward
parents
to.
located at the moment?
My parents are located in Madras, in fact.
Yes.
But I was born in Delhi,
Hmm.
that city has got a special place in my heart.
And I always love discussing politics also with you. We vibrate um, the same emotions when we talk politics, but this is not the occasion to talk. And thank you for your quality time, Percy. Uh, Once again, I'm thanking you for on behalf of the listeners and viewers of Dilli Dali. Um, meet you
Thank
soon.
you, thank you, thank you, GK. Thank you so much, and I hope they enjoy this as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.